It's Rog. It's Wednesday. We back like Reggie Bush's Heisman Trophy. And what did we just witness? This just doesn't happen too many times in my life. Everton won a derby. They lost the league at Goodison Park. We did it for you, Arsenal fans. We did it for you. We did it for you. They always say derbies have their own ecosystem. They honestly don't have their own ecosystem. But tonight, they did. My voice shows you it, that I do believe Mikel Arteta was sitting there. I felt your spirit, Mickey, sitting there in your old Everton jersey, willing us on. Oh my God, and it worked. Everton 2. This is not a mistake. This is not a typo. Liverpool 0. Dominic Calvert-Lewin, you beautiful, beautiful. She's got sexy back. Unstoppable. Bloody hell, Manchester United fans, more hard miles tonight. We will talk about that and Ten Hag's future. We'll also touch upon Arsenal's violation of Chelsea and even Nottingham Forest violation, or is it self-immolation over VAR and Premier League refereeing? But I'm not here alone. It's incredible to mark this. It's historic. That's how sad, how few derbies Everton have won in my lifetime. This is history. I'm here with my friend, lifetime Red. But objectively, he's the New York Times chief soccer correspondent. It's Rory Smith.
Yeah, I'm glad you're so happy. It's nice. I'm enjoying this energy.
You are? Mate, I've got to tell you, it will burn off and there will be tears because I do know that we are a corpse, but you just got beaten by a corpse, and your selflessness in this moment is appreciated. I'll just say we're not here alone. We will break down the Everton game in a second. We are with you, GFOPs, on this immense Do It Live. Keep those comments ticking in the chat. Let's celebrate this moment. Who's happier? Arsenal fans, Everton fans, God, just lovers of life. You're a massive part of this show, GFOPs. Come and ask us questions about football or about the world or about life itself. Here's how you do it. Scan the QR code in the top left of your screen. It'll take you into a Zoom with our producer, J-Dubs. We'll get you set up to ask your question. Come and be with us. Come and be with Rory. He needs a cuddle. It's audio only, so don't be afraid. We'll get to your questions in the second half of the broadcast, but get in line now. Come and be with us. Make sure you get yours on there. God love. Get in the chat. Give us a like. I'm going to give myself a like right now live because that's the kind of mood I'm in. Andrew Farnsworth said DCL, he got the sexiest corpse. Farnsy, he does. He's bringing sexy corpses back. I want to start quickly by raising my third first Michelob Ultra of the day. It's not my third, I'm kidding. To Leicester City, just one win away from an immediate return to the Premier League, a 5-0 beatdown, or what's known as doing an Arsenal to a Chelsea over Southampton. Incredible to see them recalibrate, overcome a late season wobble. On loan from Sporting's Ghanaian 20-year-old sensation Abdul Fattah Wu scored a hat-trick last night. It will be just magic to have them back. Season ahead, challenging, yes. They've got financial fair play problems. Who doesn't? A lingering transfer embargo for allegedly breaching PSR rules. But sod it. We're all in court nowadays. Welcome to court. That's what makes you a big team. It's unclear who'll join them. Ipswich, sweet Ipswich, or Leeds United, but Godspeed Foxes. It's so good to have you back. But sod it. Let's dive in to tonight. Come and be with us. Ask us your questions. Blues, let's celebrate. Liverpool, let's objectively talk about what has happened. I do hate for you in every regard. Everton, I love you. It's ruining my life, but I do. Behold, the 244th Merseyside Derby, arguably the best, most played derby in English football. I've got to be candid, Raw. I approached this one with a sense, not so much of dread like I normally do. I came in with a sense of weary resignation. We had our fun this weekend at Nottingham Forest's expense. Ashley Young's hat-trick of penalty, non-penalties. I felt it was our turn to pay in this one. I couldn't even conceive of Everton victory. Sean Dyche's first ever Merseyside derby at Goodison Park, which is hard to believe. Jess from Nebraska sent us a beautiful email celebrating Dyche's new look. He's dropped the suit. He's gone tracksuit. She says he looks like that guy at the gym who hogs the mirror, doing only bicep curls, and I love him for it. Everton, winless in 12 derbies, the most against any opponent we got at the moment. God, it hurt. These games for Liverpool, the try and win while Manchester City are sleeping games, the hare and tortoise games, they're the ones that had no margin for error, and we knew that. You were a little nervy ahead of this one, Roy. Jurgen Klopp said the derby is just miserable. It's just pressure. When you're both not in a great moment, it's the one game you definitely have to win. That kind of pressure. Why would I miss that? It's not enjoyable. So, Raw, take us back before kickoff if you can. Ignore everything that happened in between. Take us to your mindset. How did you really feel as a Liverpool fan before a ball had been kicked? More nerves than you'd ever admit, right?
Well, the thing is, fans see peril everywhere, don't they? That's the deal. Like, you looked at those fixtures at the start of the season, and I've said this to you about Manchester United away as well. A point at Goodison Park, good result as far as I'm concerned. I would absolutely, in pretty much every other circumstance, just take a draw at Goodison. Just don't lose. Make the fixture go away for another 9 to 12 months. Ideal. In the circumstances, you knew actually this was the point where everything kind of gets real, because Liverpool didn't have a margin for error. A draw was kind of the same as a defeat, because it still would leave them, chances are, far too distant from Man City and to a lesser extent Arsenal to have any hope of overhauling both of them. So you knew that they had to win. And because Klopp's record at Goodison involves an awful lot of draws, because Goodison is one of the toughest fixtures in Liverpool's season, because Everton have turned a bit of a corner, you kind of think, well, actually, this isn't a recipe for a happy night. So I did not go into this game with any actual expectation.
But at the same time, our record, Raw, we have won just twice in the past 14 years before tonight. Once,
yeah, and that's as it should be.
So long ago, it was a pat on the head, and I'll take it. We went at Goodison so long ago, 14 years ago. Mikel Arteta scored for us. He was still playing. And then there was the Carlo Ancelotti fanless football win at Anfield. Both times, this is slight digression, but it's important for me to get it out there. Both those wins, Raw, I wore my lucky Lecoq Sportif Everton tracksuit top. And I've only worn it twice because it's lucky. Everton win when I wear it. But, and this is the thing, I only wear it when I think we can win, which is twice in 14 years. Does it theologically undercut my claim that it's lucky, or is that how luck actually works?
Well, it suggests that kind of the universe, and I think we've always suspected this, is kind of Rog-centric, that at the heart of this miracle we call existence is you and your sartorial choices, and also weirdly Sean Dyche and his sartorial choices.
Two things together. So you thought it was just tortoises all the way down the meaning of life. It's not. It's my Lecoq Sportif tracksuit, and it's Dyche going shell suit. By the way, the game, God bless it, is helter-skelter. It is often more physical than all those before and after it. It opened hammer and tongs. Jack Harrison charging down the right, set up a chance at Abdoulaye Doucouré, went full on Nico Jackson with wrong body shape, goal begging. I loved it. I was celebrating everything tonight as if we were never going to feel joy again. But then a moment, 5 minutes in, Tarkowski went through Andy Robertson and laughed in his face. For Everton fans who've suffered in this derby, that minute, there was nothing better that followed. Tark laughing as Andy Robertson was on the turf. But Jack Harrison picked the ball up. He charged down the wing, unleashed a ball. There was honestly, it was Ødegaard-esque outside of the foot. It was sexual. It was. DCL charged in on goal and Alisson brought him down. And I was just like, I was on my feet. My nipples were tingling. The goal, yes, it was VAR'd off for offside, as it should have been. But honestly, I didn't care. I said to my kids, I was watching the game, and I was like, I've rarely been happier in my life watching Everton over the last 10 years than a non-goal. I thought that is as good as it will get. Yes, it was VAR'd off. Hashtag we all suddenly agree with you, Nottingham Forest. Odd set of exchanges in which we needed a goal line clearance from Ben Godfrey that should not be lost to history. It was immaculate. DCL heading at Alisson with a goal gaping. Canate honestly couldn't live with Calvert-Lewin suddenly. But then the moment, Raw, chaos in the Liverpool box. Jack Harrison set up Ben Godfrey, a pile driver that cannoned around the box like a grenade. Liverpool slop and fear and carnage all over the show. These are great players. That Liverpool backline has been resilient. It was broken. And Branthwaite, beautiful Branthwaite, a player so beautiful. I'm already pre-mourning him leaving us. He swooped upon it, spanked the ball through Alisson. The ball just agonisingly, tantalisingly, beautifully doinked in off the post. That doink, honestly, for me, it was like exercising the pain of Origi in the process. And even as DCL tried to tap it in over the line, you wonderful bastard, a goal that even VAR couldn't find a reason to VAR off. And it really looked, when that ball went in, yesterday, Drew Carey, I don't know if you saw this, tweeted from a fish show at the Sphere. I'll paraphrase. Well, this is how I felt. This is Drew Carey's words. I swear I just talked to God. I'd give you all my money, stick my down belows in a blender, swear off sweet, sweet love making for the rest of my life in exchange for this. Bro, I met God tonight, for real. I feel like I just got saved by Jesus, no lie. That's what that moment felt like. No explanation, Raw. No exaggeration, Raw. It was that magnificent. How was it for you?
Same. No, it was a really stupid goal. It was at that stage richly deserved. I thought like the first 10, 15 minutes, Everton looked dangerous literally every time they got anywhere near Liverpool's box. But Liverpool had a couple of moments where you thought, okay, there are openings here. But for the energy, for the kind of dynamism and stuff, Everton deserved that lead. But it came in a really stupid fashion. The kind of McAllister and I think Curtis Jones swiping at the ball at the same time. There were at least 3 bobbles in there, hitting various body parts of various players. Good finish from Branthwaite, good little bit of anticipation. And I'm not saying for a second it was against the run of play, but it was a really stupid goal.
Oh, God, it was a surrealist masterpiece. It really was, Raw. Is that what you're telling me? It was like...
So that's another word for it.
It was the melting clock of football goals. And I thought to myself in that moment, what Gasperini, the Atalanta manager, had said after he'd beaten Liverpool. He said, if you win without danger, there's no glory to your triumph, which honestly I'd love on my tombstone. Liverpool, God bless. Watching Liverpool so rattled. Big Verge so rattled. And Big Verge was like, just calm down. Everybody like freaking out, calm down is the most freaking out thing of all. They did create massive chances in a wake. Actually, out XG'd Everton in that first half. But as they had against Atalanta and Crystal Palace, Nunez, 3 big chances, Luis Diaz, Mo Salah, they short-circuited throughout in front of goal. How do you understand it? It's been a sad motif down the stretch at the last here. That short-circuiting, bro. How do you explain yourself to yourself?
To me, and I know that the chant will take hold and the truth will be passed down that Liverpool lost the lead at Goodison Park, which is not really a fair reflection of the actual like standings in the table. But the point where Liverpool's season turns is the cup game at Old Trafford, because they played quite well that day. They created about 47 goal-scoring opportunities, missed most of them, still somehow scored 3, and came away from it very clearly with a complex about their finishing. Because you saw it again in the league game at Old Trafford when Liverpool probably should have been 3 or 4 up at half-time, just couldn't finish, couldn't find that second goal. And since then, it's become this recurring nightmare in front of goal, really, that Nunez in particular, but Salah, who doesn't look looks a shadow of himself. Diaz, I think I'd exempt a little bit, because he does have that kind of that energy and that drive that's been really important the last 3 or 4 months. Jota, obviously returning from injury and then immediately getting injured again, is very on brand and deeply unfortunate. Gakpo's looked short of confidence for quite a long time. Szoboszlai doesn't look dangerous. There seems to be like a collective doubt that sets in with Liverpool. And in the last few weeks, it seems to have got worse and worse. The nadir was probably Atalanta at home when Nunez missed one really early on. They just couldn't create chances. And it looks to me, or it has looked to me, an awful lot like basically Liverpool are now creating fewer chances because no one really believes they're going to score them. But that said, there was that period, and this will sound like sour grapes, and I don't mean it to.
Please, I love the grapes of the sour variety tonight.
Between the 2 goals, I actually thought Liverpool played okay. They created 4 or 5 really good chances, especially towards the end of the first half. And yeah, better finishing, better decision making, all that stuff, they would have gone in level. That was an encouraging sign to me that if they can keep on creating chances, at some point, one of them's going to go in. That's kind of it's obviously a numbers game with Liverpool at the moment. You have to assume they're not cool-headed, dead-eyed finishers. It's just a kind of giant traction to it. And at some point, you just assume that something will, the angle will be right.
They had the volume tonight, Raw. 77% possession, 2.06 XG to Everton's 1.09. 23 shots to Everton's 16.
The issue to me is what happened after the second goal.
Well, let's get to it, baby. Because I've got to say, I did cower. My confidence bled out a little bit right after the break. Mykolenko, beautiful Mykolenko, essentially, if you didn't see the game, essentially, just take it from me, essentially lost a leg, injured himself in the turf, but played on insanely bravely. And by the way, if Vladimir Putin was watching, and I think he's a big Two Robbies fan, must have made him think about surrendering immediately. It was so audacious, and was replaced at half-time by Scourge of Nottingham Forest, ex-professional footballer, 87-year-old liability, Ashley Young. And Liverpool toured at Everton with a renewed assurance at the beginning of that second half. Honestly, I'm not afraid to admit it, I strapped on a pair of adult diapers, just got ready for all that was to come. I went to see my dad, actually, with all my kids on Sunday before we went to watch Everton play Forest. I took my kids. My dad is in a medical state where he can... He can't speak very much at all anymore. He's really diminished. It's hard. But I just do a lot of talking at him. And I told him where we were going. I did one of those, Dad, we're going to Goodison Park. Going to take the kids to Goodison Park. And my dad just instinctively smiled. And then he turned slowly to my kids. And he just goes, ooh, that's a bit dark. A live truth that honestly lives inside of him, trapped inside of him. That's what I thought watching this second half at the beginning, Raw. As Salah and Robbo and Jones missed opportunities. I was just braced for really, not to be hyperbolic, but for the eternal flames of hell to just lap at the soles of this Evertonian's feet and consume me whole. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like that Liverpool period, either side of the of half time, it felt like we'd seen it before and it was coming.
Yeah, they were building ahead of steam. There's no question. They were starting to create chances with 10 minutes to go in the first half, and then after a bad first minute of the second half, they seemed like they'd picked up where they left off. There was a bit of purpose about them. They looked dangerous. They were getting into good areas, and you did think, okay, look, this is not a reliable team. They are not reliable forwards at the moment, but they will get one eventually. And I was thinking actually Liverpool needed to score before the hour mark. If they wanted to win, and as I say, they had to win. A draw was no good to them tonight. They had to get one before the hour mark. Because after the hour, Sean Dyche's teams dig in, don't they? They kind of they grit their teeth. They
get
take their tops off.
It's a battle of the bulge. Yeah. It is the battle of the bulge, lads. I gotta say, I love that image of uber rational Rory Smith at home. Be like, we need to score before the hour. That's something I've never said to myself.
Oh, really?
You just think about. By the way, I just mostly as an Everton fan, because the we need to score thing is just not a thing.
It was just it's a mathematical calculation. Liverpool need 57 chances to score a single goal.
Yeah.
So you have to allow yourself time to create the other 56.
That's the opposite of Manchester United, but not on this day. Raw first, Shai McNeil lashed a palm stinger at Alisson, pushed it over the bar from that corner. Dominic Calvert-Lewin jumped up. All that sadness, all that frustration, all that agony, honestly, at times. He just leapt up over the back post. Just you could see him visualising all that was to come before he even left the ground. But once he did, big air. Over Trent, I mean, we are talking, this was Vince Carter over Frederick Weiss. This was Le Dunk de l'Amour, Scouse style. He just battered it home. Dom is so bringing sexy back. And I am a full-grown man, Raw. I don't know if you know that about me. I am not too big to admit. I cried in that moment. I just didn't quite understand the feelings that were taking over my body.
With good reason. The other thing is, that's a really Everton goal, and I mean that as a genuine source of praise. That is what Goodison Park should be. It's what Everton should be. Like there's always this tension, I think, between the school of science and the dogs of war. But whatever version of Everton Everton want to be at that moment, which is normally the version opposite to what they are, they should have a massive number 9 who's dominant in the air. And Calvert-Lewin's he's had such a tough time with injuries. He's a really nice fella. He's a good man. You want him to do well.
Sweet man.
It was an amazing header. Really well worked routine.
Feels things, Dom. He feels a lot.
He's got the piercing blue eyes of a wolf.
And he smells, I've told him this live on stage, he smells amazing. He just smells amazing. James W. in the chat says Dominic Ferguson. I love that. That captures it. Mike Marshall tweeted us, at Criff31 tweeted us, it's the Arsenal fans who don't realise that Everton will find a way to somehow lose this game that I feel sorry for. When I saw that tweet, I was like, oh, Mike Marshall, you get me. But at the same time, I honestly, strangely felt no fear. I think because, we're already dead. Let's be candid. Everton are as dead as Tarantino's The Media Critic. So we have nothing to fear. Nobody can hurt us anymore. Not even Divock Origi can get to us. Dead men fear nothing. Luis Diaz drove the ball dead-eyed off the post. I felt nothing. I didn't even scream. I didn't even pee in my pants just a little bit. Didn't even do that. Everton fans were delighting and singing they lost the league at Goodison Park. Everton, 9 days ago, we shipped 6 goals. Stop me if you heard this one before, but it was actually to Chelsea, which is unfathomable. Tonight felt so life-affirming. It felt so delirious. It felt surreal. It felt like we deserve this. Our club, our zombie club, but our fans, so alive. Being at Goodison again, just seeing these fans who have suffered, who have never stopped believing and feeling and suffering, and going and cheering those boys on, so filled with hope and belief, despite, let's be candid, all evidence to the contrary. Tonight, I saw a vision. Caleb Williams is going to win the Super Bowl with the Chicago Bears. I just felt it. But Everton Football Club, raw, a dead club that can still dance.
Yeah, and to be honest, all that fear that you didn't feel should have diminished gradually over the course of the game anyway, because after the second goal, I think Liverpool looked at it and they looked an awful lot to me like a very tired team and a team that knew they had to score 3 goals because a draw, no good to them. And they didn't look like a team that thought they could score 3 goals, given that Darwin Núñez was standing up front. I think that was the main problem. So no, it was a really. There's nothing like Goodison when it's in full voice, when it's not booing. Goodison normally, when it's in full voice, is booing Everton. But when it's not booing, when it forgets that that's its natural sound, and it's gleeful, even if it's chanting things that are inaccurate, like you lost the lead at Goodison Park, that's not what's happened. That's not that's not how this Premier League season will be remembered. It felt like a moment that the club needed. To be honest, even as a Liverpool fan, it's the fact that Everton haven't won a derby at Goodison since 2010. That's not great. That's not actually particularly good for football.
It's my fault. I just haven't worn.
The managers have been wearing the wrong clothes.
Tracksuit.
And you need to have more faith, Rog. You need to have more faith. But there was a bit of a lull with 25 minutes to go, maybe 25 minutes to go. Those minutes would have felt really long at Goodison Park to the Everton fans. But the last 10, they knew that Liverpool couldn't hurt them. And not because Everton are already dead and therefore don't have any feelings, but because Liverpool were terrible and had given up hope. They caught a little bit of what it is to be Everton. And that, I think, is the greatest victory of all.
Oh, we made them us. We gave them... That's like... it's like we gave them the gene, the mutant gene. And that is how it ends, with a plot twist, which is to say... Jurgen Klopp, it's got to be said, he leaves with an incredible derby record, just 2 losses now in 19 games. And one of those was to Mr. Carlo at Anfield during fanless football. And tonight was tonight. But Liverpool tonight, it was meek. It was a shattered team who was so buoyant in the weeks after Klopp's shock announcement. But a sense of reality has kicked in. And a sense almost of resignation with it at the last. When Klopp said that he was running out of energy, he wasn't just speaking about himself. Turns out it was a prophecy about the state of his team this season. Watching him down the stretch in that game, still plenty of football to play. I think like you 20 minutes to play. Watching him sitting slumped on that little fence by his bench, just stooped over. I felt for him. The dreams of his fairy tale. Yet one more epic comeback. This ferocious club that does not know when it is done. Done. Not to be. Just mental torture, just physical fatigue, a sense of what might have been. The last dance roar will end with just the Carabao Cup to show for it. And rationally, it's been a year of rebuild. It's been a year of overachievement, if you believe it's been a year of rebuild, and it has. Because honestly, if I told you when you lost, Fabinho, Henderson, that whole midfield essentially ripped out at the last pre-season, and I said, don't worry, guys, you're going to challenge deep into the season. You're going to win things. You're going to thrill. You're going to experience with youth. You're going to experience with veterans. You're going to experience wonder. You would have bit my arm off. But football is not rational. And so emotionally, Raw, how does it feel? It feels a bit like a death.
It's a bit sad because, if you'd said at the start of the season, Liverpool will finish third, win a domestic cup, and make the quarterfinals of the Europa League, you'd have been a bit disappointed not to win the Europa League, if I'm honest. But you'd have said, yeah, that sounds about right. This is a team that finished fifth last year and needed a really late run to do that. They'd completely rebuilt the midfield. They, lost Mane. They'd lost Firmino. Like it kind of all felt a bit like, okay, this is a team that's between generations. And that would have been fine. And if they'd had the run that they're on now in December and they sort of coasted to third, never having really been in the title race, you'd have accepted that. And Klopp would have had quite a nice farewell tour, to be perfectly honest. It's the fact that there was a point in February, March where you thought, okay, they are genuine contenders. And I think they went top on their own and with all the same number of games played in the start of April. And it has kind of collapsed since then, to be perfectly honest. Whether that's because there's a narrative taking hold here that the energy that Klopp's announcement gave them has kind of burned off, and what's left is like a hollow shell of Liverpool. I think it's probably a bit more straightforward than that. The players, particularly the team that played tonight, look really tired. They look like they are out of energy. They're out of ideas. I'm a bit surprised, given that Liverpool played pretty well against Fulham at the weekend, that Klopp didn't stick with a couple of those players, at least Gravenberch, Elliott, Jota. He couldn't because of the injury. Gakpo was ruled out because his wife's about to have a baby, which is much more important. So a couple of them were enforced, but it did surprise me. Just Szoboszlai hasn't looked great. Jones hasn't looked great since he came back from injury. It felt like a kind of last roll of the dice for Klopp, and there is a risk now. Well, look, no, do you know what? I'll put the positive spin on it. There is a possibility that this will kind of go down, as it will to our opposition fans. We can see it in the comments that this is hilarious. Ha 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 ha! Isn't Klopp? Kind of, isn't it embarrassing? To be honest, Jurgen Klopp's won every major trophy that is available to him apart from the Europa League at Liverpool. There's no failure here. This has been a lot, as a Liverpool fan, this has been a lot of fun.
As an awful person, there is no failure here. There is no failure here. There's only joy.
What the good thing is that potentially, say City win tomorrow night and that kind of nixes it completely, I think Klopp gets his final 3 or 4 games just for the fans to kind of celebrate him. There'll be nothing on that last game of the season at Anfield. And look, I want to win the league. I'd love that to have been a coronation. It's not going to be. Okay. It's perfectly natural for fans to try and find, the positive in it. That game will be about Jurgen Klopp, and that's not a bad way to say it.
There'll be a large Viking longbow which he boards at the final whistle.
Can I just make one
sail off, and then Roy Hodgson himself will pull back his longbow, and a flaming arrow will whoosh. It'll be amazing.
There's just one other thing that I think needs to be recorded about Dominic Calvert-Lewin, which is that, and a lot of the people watching won't have seen this because it was on British TV. A couple of minutes before the end of the game, Goodison bouncing, the songs flying. Gary Neville, the pundit on the commentary, is asked to name his man of the match. And in that really sort of serious, sonorous voice, Gary Neville goes, "There's only one person for it." The camera flicks onto Calvert-Lewin. And Gary Neville goes, "I'm giving it to Daniel Calvert-Lewin." And that sums it up perfectly.
Did he really?
I think I'm 99% certain he called him Daniel, yeah.
Oh my God, what the Phil Neville's was that? Honestly, that's incredible. And by the way, Jordan Pickford, God, you're a beautiful human being. Jesse Sight, the great GFOP in the chat, says, my Liverpool-loving dog is processing this by having a fight with some crows right now to try and handle his anger at the game. Jen, honestly, this reads like some kind of great Murakami short story. Very quickly, because I want to get to your questions, your chat. It has to be noted, both clubs, this was just a game. We're in moments of existential agony. Everton, 777, looks ever more 666. The club briefing quietly that they're looking for, quote, other investors as this drags on, which I find hard to believe. There's just not a lot of investors looking at Everton because the finances they're tough. They are toxic. They're not toxic, they're toxic-y. But Liverpool, the managerial transition, we have to talk about this. We've Ruben Amorim'd after Xabi Alonso, and the new name getting the heat today, Arne Slot, a 45-year-old Dutch man who led Feyenoord to the 2023-24 Eredivisie title and the Dutch Cup this season too. You may remember him. He was last linked with Leeds United after they parted ways with Jesse Marsh. Also ruled himself out of the Tottenham job before Ange Postecoglou took over. What can you tell us about him quickly, Raw? Attacking style, seen him linked to a lot of the bigger teams in Europe. He's got a rep for developing young talent. One Dutch journo says he plays crazy, sexy football, but it's some step up from the Eredivisie to the Premier League. Case in point one, Erik ten Hag. Raw, you're a resident expert on all things Dutch bald men. What can you tell us quickly about Liverpool zigging when others zag here?
It feels like a low point for the market for Dutch bald managers, to be fair. This is not a fashionable time to get a bald Dutch guy in. Yeah, he's done great at Feyenoord. They very much the kind of traditionally the second club in Holland, but now the third financially behind Ajax and PSV. Won I think just the second league title this century. Built a squad on a shoestring. They played great attacking football. Similar kind of system to Liverpool, which means ideally no major squad overhaul. Although after tonight, maybe there needs to be a bit of a squad overhaul. I think the two big questions are, one, that step up from the Eredivisie to the Premier League, different caliber players, different type of pressure, different caliber of opponent. That's important. But that was going to be a risk, whoever got that job, because there is not an outstanding candidate at, say, Tottenham who is going to go to Liverpool. Postecoglou's not going to leave Tottenham to go to Liverpool, so that's not an option. And the other one is that Klopp casts a really long shadow, and whoever got the Liverpool job after Klopp was going to have the problem of what happens in October if Liverpool have played 10, won 6, drawn 2, lost 2. Because if that was Klopp, the fans would be with him. It wouldn't be a problem. If it was Alonso, the same. Amorim, Slot, anybody else you can name, it's going to be a big test to see how much the fans want to back him, have that belief, have that ability to believe again. Because I think the one thing that is true of all clubs, it's not a unique Liverpool thing, but it takes a lot of energy and a lot of effort to really kind of believe that you're going to have success, to believe in a football team. Liverpool fans have done a lot of believing in the last 9 years. It'll be interesting to see how deep their well of belief is, because Slot might come in, refresh everything. It might feel like, okay, everyone timed this right. Or it might be there's a lot of people going, do you know what? I really like the last guy, and I'm not sure I'm ready to fall in love again with this. I don't like my new Dutch stepdad.
Yeah, when old Jurgen went out to get a pint of milk and never came back. I love that theological framing there. There's a set of theological beliefs that all religions either revolve around one or two of believing, belonging, and behaving. And Liverpool have done a lot of believing, they've done a lot of belonging, and the team have done a lot of behaving. This transition is going to be fascinating to witness. I was going to talk about the other games tonight. Let's talk about them very quickly. So many questions coming in. I do want to get to them. Other big-ish game of the night, Manchester United 4, Sheffield United 2, some United on United violence. A game which took place in the shadow of the weekend FA Cup semi-final, which felt like a terrible, terrible loss. There was actually a win, left Ten Hag attacking the English press, which is never a sign of health. See Frank Lampard. And tonight, they never do anything easy. Ended up winning. A lot of talk now, and it may come up in the questions about the future or the death rattle for Erik ten Hag. The great stat in the English newspapers today, his record during the first 2 years of his tenure, almost akin to Mikel Arteta, who was seriously questioned by all quarters. Dutchman has I think it's 57.98% win rate compared with Arteta's 58%. I just don't see the equivalent whatsoever. We can discuss in questions if need be. Crystal Palace surge past Newcastle 2-0, 2 goals more from the Mateta Naissance, 3 wins on the run for Palace now. And up the cherries, Semenyo scored for Bournemouth against Wolves to win the Gary O'Neill Memorial Derby. Last night, Arsenal 5, Chelsea 0. Less a game, more a public defenestration. My God, Pochettino sounds ever more like a manager waiting to be fired so he can pick up a comically large polystyrene severance check and get out of there. Again, we can talk about it. At Barney Renee, the great journalist, tweeted, Chelsea actually very refreshing to watch. So much heavy systems football around. Here's a team with no plan. That pretty well sums up what occurred last night. Pochettino, I mean, the question is who would want that job if you replace him? We can discuss. And I'm old enough to remember when Arsenal were meant to be choking. Those Arsenal fans partying, celebrated as they should. Don't listen to the haters, Arsenal fans. Savour every second of watching your team fly. If you can't dance after winning a 5-0 Derby beatdown, what's the point? What's the point? City play tomorrow, Thursday at Brighton. They're 4 points behind Arsenal, but 2 games in hand. We can discuss. If there's a question, are they now a mortal lock? 2 stories we're not going to have time to get into. Xavi Hernandez has agreed to remain as Barcelona coach. U-turn there after he'd said he was too fatigued mentally to continue. And Nottingham Forest and their quite insane attack on the integrity of Premier League refereeing. I have a feeling, Raw, that we would align on this. Just more craziness. Football always just reflects the politics, the culture that surrounds it. I've rarely seen a football team act more like a political party, just speaking to its base. That's ultimately what Forest are doing here. But we'll get to your questions. Remind you of how this works on this great night on YouTube Live. Scan the QR code, top left of your screen, or click on the pinned comment on the chat. Take you into a Zoom with our producer, J-Dubs, beautiful human being, who'll tell you all you need to know. Come be with us. Lots of you coming on. Let's start with Justin Lowe. Justin, you're on with me and Raw. Tell us where you are and what's your question?
Roger, can you hear me okay?
Oh, Justin Lowe, I hear your sweet, sweet tones. Where are you, baby?
Excellent. I'm in Boulder, Colorado, but originally from Chicagoland.
Oh, where about in Chicago?
Fox River Grove, northwest suburbs.
Fox River Grove. God, I love America. What's your question on this night of nights? Pick Rory up, give him a hug, fire away.
Yeah, sorry, Rory, but the question's about Klopp's legacy. What do you think this loss and series of poor performances has really done to his legacy? Is this a man that's going out swinging like he has for the last several years, or is this a man kind of withering away and somebody who's maybe lost the locker room a little bit?
Yeah, probably more the latter, to be honest. I mean, I don't think it affects his legacy long term. He's won a Champions League, he's won a Premier League, 3 finals. Like that stuff doesn't go away. But it is, I think, it's not the goodbye he'd have wanted, and it's not. You'd be lying if you said it's like on a positive note. I suppose the flip side of that is that maybe it makes it slightly easier to deal with what's going to happen this summer with, a new coach definitely coming in, maybe 1 or 2 of the bigger players leaving. Like that sense of change would be really difficult if they'd like missed out on the title by goal difference and won all of their remaining games. Like that would have been really hard to deal with. Maybe there is an element of, I'm straw clutching to an extent, but like maybe there's an element of, okay, you can look at this and say, this man clearly does look very tired. He seems very tired. And recently his public messaging has been about how tired he is, which personally, I'm not convinced is a great idea. But in terms of his broader legacy, I think that remains untouched. Like what he's done to restore Liverpool to the place where Liverpool believes it should be, I think that doesn't change because the ending's a little bit of a damp squib.
I'd only add that ultimately, Jurgen Klopp's legacy, I don't think will be defined truly until, or if even, ... Manchester City's 115 charges are worked out. Look, the fatigue, the exhaustion, the level of being just humanly spent is, that one narrative will be woven around it. If Manchester City are found to be not guilty on all charges, but if there are decisions made about what we've just watched over the last decade of football, the last 8 years, what Klopp was competing against that did fatigue him. Ultimately, that will lead to a complete and utter reappreciation of this human being. And so ultimately, this is a gentleman that has competed, has given his all. If he was competing against something that ultimately was financially steroided, so it was a rigged game, it will change completely the value of which everything, his messages, the appreciation, his tactical style, and his footballing achievements are realised, understood, and reappreciated. I will say, having just been in Liverpool this weekend, when you talk about legacy, it is hard to believe the extent to which his face is all over this city, to which his quotes have given people meaning over the last 8 years, how the journey, ultimately he's been on a journey. He said to Liverpool fans, we are going on a journey, who's with me? And he has taken that team, as the chant where they name every city they've been to, the delirium with which they viewed the world, the wins that they were cut from their dreams. Ultimately, that is his legacy. He has given Liverpool fans. I've tweeted it a number of times over the past 8 years as a long-suffering Everton fan. Being a Liverpool fan has been so much bloody fun for so bloody long for the majority of his career. And ultimately, I do hope that is what is remembered in terms of his legacy. Lots of questions. I'm going to try and jump through them all. You're all gorgeous. You're all welcome. Next one up, it's the mighty Bethany. Come and tell us where you are and what's your question.
Hey, Raj. Hey, Rory. I'm calling from Conover, North Carolina. It's just outside of Hickory and between Hickory and Statesville, for anybody that's familiar.
I can almost smell the barbecued pork butts. Oh, what God's country you are calling us from. What's your question? Give Roar a hug. Lift him up with your questioning.
Well, I would like to say thank you to you both. What you've just discussed actually makes me feel a lot better as a Liverpool fan. But I guess my question really leans more on the players of Liverpool. And let's pause on the Jurgen Klopp memorial for a moment. Do we think that the fatigue that these players have been under, that weight of expectation, does it have to do with the weight of Klopp's last dance? Or is it more about that fear of the unknown, the fact that really a next manager hasn't been put in place and that a lot of their positions could potentially be on the table and potentially parting ways with the club?
That's a really good question. I think probably both to an extent. It seems logical that like there would be that initial response as there was in like January, February, that you'd think, okay, let's do this for this guy. We love this man. We're gonna, run through brick walls for him. And that as the pressure builds in terms of what you can win and the legs get tired, that suddenly you crack. And what we've seen really is like the flaws in this Liverpool team become visible in a way they weren't earlier in the season. But yeah, players think about their futures. Players think about, okay, what's next for me? What's happening with me? They have quite a lot. Footballers have quite a lot of spare time, and that's probably their main source of entertainment, is thinking about their futures. So it wouldn't surprise me if there's an element of, it must be really hard to keep a dressing room together when there's this big change coming, where there is this kind of cloud of uncertainty necessarily hanging over the club, where everyone is starting to wonder, okay, what comes next? I think that may well have been a factor, yeah. But I to what extent which of the two is the more defining, I don't know. But it's a really interesting point, I think.
It's also you're talking about the mental fear, the mental drain. It does need to be acknowledged that the physical toll of this season, yes, the physical toll, big picture of football in general, this relentless surge post 2022 World Cup in November, just this endless spigot of football that these footballers' bodies are condemned now to play through on the men's side. By the way, increasing on the women's side too. Football without chance to properly rest, experience downtime and restore. Many of the most joyous stories of this season for Liverpool the kids, when the kids came in and just won, when they won the Carabao Cup with kids. The flip side of that always, if you were an owner of Liverpool Football Club, I would imagine you would be saying, oh my God, we are playing the kids because our elite players are breaking down, and they're breaking so many of those injuries in that time. They were breaking down in training. They weren't breaking down in games. They were breaking down in training. And I think that's ultimately the agony of this moment, this season, this time of year for Liverpool. For Arsenal last season, with that squad, it just the demands of that football for Arsenal, just that relentless press that Ødegaard triggered for Liverpool. Just that I said it a couple of weeks ago. There's a thin line between just explosive, overwhelming chaos and just pure chaotic self-destruction, and that's what we've seen. Unfortunately, that second narrative win out. It's not just the mental stress, Bethany. It's the physical toll that being whatever he calls it, he's called it different styles of football in his time there. The original was the heavy metal football, which he then dispensed with as he tactically evolved. But it takes a bloody, terrible physical toll on these footballers too. But God bless Bethany, whatever the case, we can just picture Jurgen Klopp living out his days fishing in Lake Norman, just loving life in your beautiful, beautiful state. Oh, it's great to see this name on the call sheet. Proper blue, proper GFOP. Oh, it's the mighty Andrew Millington. Hello, Andrew. I'm sure you're on one even as we speak. Remind us where you're from and what's your question.
Hey, guys. Calling in from Denver, Colorado today.
Millington, we won, baby. I bet you didn't think we'd see us. I never thought I'd see us win a derby again in my lifetime, honestly. Not lying.
Yeah, it's insane that the last two people to win a Merseyside Derby against Liverpool are Carlo Ancelotti and Sean Dyche. That's just insane to me. But my question is, did Liverpool's veterans let Klopp down? Not that I'm complaining, but I haven't seen VVD that out of sorts since like the Villa beat down a few seasons ago. And everyone, like Salah, after he missed, he was kind of blasé about it. Diaz really seemed to be trying to force things. Like the leaders really didn't seem to be setting the tone like they normally do.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely right. Van Dijk seemed a little bit diminished. Salah's clearly off form. Like he's not been playing well since he came back from injury. To add to what you said to Bethany, Rog, I think the other thing that's important with Liverpool is that you lose players to injury. That's bad. When you have a lot of them coming back at the same time at different rates, they all play at different rhythms, and it's really hard to get that kind of cohesion back. The one thing I'd say on the flip side is Everton played really well. Like those two things exist in kind of harmony with each other. Liverpool did play badly on an individual level. I think Van Dijk didn't play well. I don't think Salah played well. I thought Robertson was poor. Trent faded after about an hour. But Everton, with about 7% possession, did exactly what they were meant to do. And ultimately, they posed Liverpool a set of questions that Liverpool couldn't answer. Whether you blame Liverpool's performance for that, or whether you kind of give the agency to Everton and say, okay, Everton created that situation, probably depends on what colour shirt you're wearing to an extent. But Liverpool didn't play well, certainly for the last half hour. First 20 minutes, last half hour, Liverpool didn't play well. As I say, I think in between, they played pretty well. But whether that was because of their shortcomings or because of Everton's excellence on the night, I don't know. The one thing with Salah, I would say, is that it's probably worth, given how much money he earns and his value, Liverpool will have to ask themselves the question this summer: do we think this little dip in form is temporary and he returns, next season as the Mo Salah we remember, or is it maybe time to think about rebuilding and refreshing?
Can I just tell you that your point's a beautiful one? And Andrew Millington, we can sing the names. Jack Harrison, best performance in an Everton shirt I have seen. Just confidence. Every time he was on the ball, he thought he could hurt Liverpool, which is just magnificent. Obviously, Dominic Calvert-Lewin, just his revenge game, just revenge on all of the doubters. And we all know who we are That must have felt utterly, utterly magnificent. I bet he's FaceTiming Tom Davis giddily as we speak, planning a New York trip. I hope so, DCL. It would be beautiful to see you over here. Gay, just 2 back-to-back monster games in midfield, just deliriously dazzling, filled with wonder. I could go on. Jordan Pickford, Tark. God, Tark, what an incredible human being. What a mentality. I mean, I watch Russian slap fighting sometimes and I think, wow, that sport, it's the opposite of who I am. I just couldn't do it if they forced me in life. If I went through a hole in time and suddenly found myself on a Russian slap fighting set, I wouldn't know what to do with myself. They're just so different to me as humans. Tark, I feel the same about, just the cloth he's cut from mentally, physically, so different to how I approach life. But I adore and admire his approach to it all so wonderfully. Obviously, Branthwaite, too good for us. Pre-mourning him. Grateful for the short journey of wonder that we've experienced. I could go on and on and on, but you're right, Raw. Liverpool, terrible day. Everton, just one of the games of the season. Drink it up, Andrew Millington. How are you going to celebrate tonight, baby?
Well, I crafted a tweet that I've been working on for about a year. So, at the beginning of the season, it seemed like Liverpool was building something beautiful. Something dangerous and wonderful. And really, at the end of the day, everything exploded. So, Kloppenheimer?
Keep workshopping that one up, baby. Keep workshopping that 1 year age spite tweet is just, it's a thing of wonder. I'll say it again. I'm going to go to the next question, but my God, I have been when Everton do go down, and we will go down, I think we're never coming up again. I think our derbies are numbered, Raw. I didn't think, I'd got to the point where I'd text John Green, but I don't think we're going to have any more Merseyside derbies, and we'd mourn that. To see Everton win one, I genuinely can't believe it, and I'm gonna open a good one tonight. Good one, baby. Patrick from Evanston, come and join us. I've told everyone where you're from, so give us a tiny little Evanston detail to make up for me stepping on your line, and tell us what your question is, baby. Unmute Patrick from Evanston.
Oh, sorry. Hey, I didn't hear the name. I got a call like immediately while you were calling the name.
Who called
Sorry.
you, Patrick? And who's more important?
One of my friends congratulating me. I said, I'll be back with you. Let's see. First off, it's no surprise. The Blue Boys are on the rise. Oh, it's beautiful. I'm going to watch the Many Men GIF or a clip of Deitch so many times tonight. Let me just say, I'm loving this. This is amazing. Crashing Deitch out of that. I know, Rory, yeah, technically you could still win it, but if you do lose, the narrative will be you lost at Goodison Park. So, nonetheless, here's my question, though.
You singular, Raw. You singular.
I just feel as though we're all erasing Crystal Palace from history.
Yeah,
Well, I mean, look, this is
Palace,
against your
Palace.
local rivals, right? It's going to carry that narrative, whether it is true or not. And I
Don't
completely
let
understand.
Raw
This is
throw you
biased.
from historic
Exactly.
truth, Patrick.
Doesn't matter.
Keep
Here's
going with
the
your
issue.
question,
With
baby.
The great Sean Deitch does this give him an extra 6 months?
Does this game
Or how much time does it give him, I guess is the point, really.
Yeah, well, but Everton, I mean, Sean Dyche has eternity at Everton at the current sort of state of play, doesn't he? Because, well, look, so Everton have been, and this is people in Britain certainly would never accept this. I quite like Everton. I've worked on Merseyside for a long time. I've got friends who work there. It's a great stadium. I have no real ill feeling towards Everton. Not particularly well disposed towards Everton at this point in time, but generally, I like to see Everton in the Premier League. I like to see them doing okay. There's no owner. The people who want to buy Everton come with massive caveats. They're trying to punt it around various kind of Middle Eastern dictatorships to try and find someone who's not them.
They're trying to find a Middle Eastern dictatorship so desperately needy, so terrible that they need Everton Football Club as a bid. Is that what you're saying?
Deloitte are going to like
That's exactly.
Tajikistan and stuff to find like some despot who's named a capital after himself to see if he wants to buy Goodison Park. The mess of Everton is the defining thing around Everton. The club's long-term future is the priority. Deitch has overseen a season in which Everton, if it wasn't for the points deductions, would have 41 points, which is not bad. It's not great, but it's okay. But at the same time, Everton, and I say this with respect and affection, have been dreadful for large portions of the season. There have been points where Everton have been really poor. But I think in the circumstances, changing the manager should be nobody's priority. And also, I'm not quite sure who do it. Like, who's making that call? So I think Deitch, he'll get through the summer. The bigger question with Deitch is, say Everton find a well-meaning, ambitious owner who's not 777. At what point do you make the call? Okay, look, Sean Deitch is good at this bit, but if we want to kick on and get to the next bit, we might have to change. That's always going to be the complication that Sean Deitch presents Everton, but that's not a conversation for tonight.
God, you know what? I'm just doing what Deloitte are doing. I've just Googled worst dictatorships in world right now, and I'm trying to find possible purchases of Everton. Bizarrely, there's a photo of a demonstration in Cuba in this article I've looked at where a man is holding up a sign that says Wenger out, which I just love. I don't even know what to tell you. I mean, does Deitch... I thought when Raw took a deep breath, and Roy is a man who always lets his pesky facts and truths get in the way of my one-sided football arguments.
Exactly.
But when Roy took a deep breath and started to explain, I wondered if Roy was going to be like, let me explain to you, Patrick, how money works, because Everton don't have any. And it's for that reason, and that reason alone, that Sean Dyche is currently still in a job. When you saw that
Sure.
run from December the 16th, was it, to like forever, where we'd not won a game and we're just falling like a stone, and the performances were just dead. We're a zombie team. We are zombie. We are what's in your head, zombie, territory that only the Cranberries know about. And so, God, we're lucky to have Sean Dyche. I mean, lots of the fans can't stand him. We still think we're a big club. We don't want these men. The honest truth is, Sean Dyche is genuinely... I mean, he's like the guy that just, when a building is falling down, moves in and knows just enough about handymanness to keep it from totally toppling. We're bloody lucky. And God bless him. He's probably arguably one of the best things about Everton Football Club right now. I want to take the rest of the questions because you are all so great. I'm going to take them very quickly. Jump to John Stout. Tell us where you are, the mighty John Stout. Sounds like a refreshing beverage. Where are you? And what's your question?
Hi, Rog and Rory. I'm from the Detroit suburbs.
Which one, Johnny Stout?
I'm like midway between Ann Arbor and Detroit.
Oh, God.
Little town called Belleville.
God bless Belleville. No one calls you Johnny Stout, do they? You're always John Stout.
No, not even my mother.
Yeah, you're not a Johnny. That was very rude. He's John Stout and only John Stout. What's your question, Johnny Stout?
So, Roger, today Everton's now 8 points clear of the drop. So if we say Everton is safe and Sheffield United's definitely going down, who out of the remaining three teams, Nottingham Forest, Luton Town, and Burnley, do you think are going to be the two that get relegated?
Raw, let me ask you this, because I did kind of hit it very quickly about Nottingham Forest's just assault on refereeing integrity. Like, what happens? I mean, this is a club that, I mean, the Premier League, the language they're using, you understand coded language where they're, quote, extremely displeased, etc., etc. What is going on in that battle? I think we quickly need to understand that one and the possible scenarios for how it's going to play out, and then we can answer the question. JJ Watt believes Burnley are putting up a late great fight. I do want to make that completely clear, John Stout, but Raw.
I mean, in terms of what might happen for punishment, I mean, fines... I suppose they could ban whoever said anything publicly. I think Nuno said something that was relatively careful. They might get banned. Nico Williams will almost certainly get some sort of. I mean, I don't know if they. Actually, do you know what? I don't know if they can ban them for from games for saying stuff, but he'll get a bid fine or whatever. There'll be no points taken off them. I think what Forest have done is both justified in a sense, because they had every right to be furious at that refereeing performance. They were 3 penalties, but also incredibly dangerous. Like to kind of usher football towards like a post-truth world like that, out of pure naked self-interest, is both typically Evangelos Marinakis, but also really, really kind of pernicious and risky, and something that football has to work pretty hard to get rid of immediately. We've already seen Joan Laporta, the Barca president, ask for the Clásico to be replayed at the weekend because of a decision about whether a ball went over a line, and that is a bad precedent to be set. In terms of who goes down, I suspect the Premier League might want it to be Nottingham Forest now and get rid of them. Glancing at the fixtures, for all that JJ Watt is right that Burnley are putting up a great
Manchester
fight.
United away,
Spurs away,
Newcastle at home.
Newcastle at home. Although that's not that bad because Newcastle have got nothing to play for. They got beaten tonight.
Spurs away, and then the big one last day of the season, Burnley and Nottingham Forest.
I would imagine that Luton have obviously got Everton. I think the odds are with Luton and Burnley. To be honest, they would be. If I had to gamble on it, I would say them, but it'll be close.
It's only the Premier League actively trying to make Nottingham Forest feeling that there's a conspiracy against them actually true. That's ultimately going to change that. By the way, Everton surviving for another season. Just another what lies ahead? Just another season of just pummeling, just torture, self-sabotage, pain, agony, and it's a journey that I am willingly ready to walk with no shoes on. I cannot wait in every regard. By the way, last thing on the referee thing, let's be kind to referees. Who would want to be a referee in this moment? It is just the vilification of these referees in this social media age, the hatred, just the way we all know them, the ones I hate him, can't stand. It's just, why would anyone want to be a referee in this day and age? We are pushing the game into a problem. By the way, we're not pushing into a problem that may occur. It's already happening across the grassroots, just the level, the number, the sheer challenges to refereeing. We just need to love these people as humans, which is what they are, and we are all bloody flawed. And that's what refereeing is almost certainly going to be. But God, this vilification, this destruction of the refereeing profession is just brutal, and we've all got to start thinking differently. I include myself in that, to be candid. Last question of the night from Joshua Youngerman. Question about the run-in, I believe. Come on up, you mighty Joshua Youngerman. Oh, bring us home, Daddy. Remind us where you are. What's your question?
I'm in San Francisco.
Oh, hello, gorgeous. It's like lunchtime for you. What's your question, baby?
I know. Well, Raj, first, I just want to say I'm not going to dance in your grave, Rory. I just want to say you deserve happiness.
But Rory would probably think not with facts. But go on. What's your question, Jim?
Yeah, Rory, I'm curious, especially with the run-in. I look at Arsenal's remaining fixtures, and I actually think they're very favorable. Mm-hmm. Even Spurs, just the way Spurs play, I think is going to play right into their hands. I mean, I believe they had less of the ball than Chelsea did yesterday, and still put up 5 goals. How much do you think Man City are feeling the pressure? I mean, I'm looking at Pep's press conferences. He looks pretty sullen, and I just think these last 4 matches or 5 matches or 6 matches for Man City are really tricky. And I believe I read something where they've historically dropped points against all but 2 of these teams in the last year. Like which match do you think they're likely to drop points in? And I mean, am I wrong to be feeling this optimistic? But I think this kind of favors Arsenal, even if it's out of their hand.
The question is Joshua Youngerman self-deluded?
Am I just high, or am I actually saying?
But 2 things can be true at the same time, Joshua Youngerman. Raw, take it away, baby.
No, I think particularly last night, Arsenal have put City under genuine pressure, because obviously if City win all their games, they win the league. But what Arsenal did last night was say to City, okay, come and take it. And I think that's genuinely significant. The goal difference is relevant because Arsenal are 10 ahead of City, which is effectively an extra point. City know they have to be flawless. And I agree with Joshua. I think Arsenal have got 2 fixtures you'd look at and think, Spurs away is not impossible, but that's difficult. and then Manchester United away. And there's a risk that Arsenal will only win that by 6 or 7 goals, and I just don't know if that'll be enough. Arsenal at Old Trafford is difficult because it's Old Trafford ultimately, and United are a chaotic shambles mess of a team, but they've got a lot of good players, and they can damage you individually. But yeah, I think the basic point is right. I think Arsenal's running is more favourable than City's. City have no margin for error at all. Arsenal have made it very clear they are going to go and take it to the wire. City have got Wolves. They don't like playing Wolves. Forest away isn't ideal because Forest are fighting for their lives, and you never know. Maybe PG Moel might be under a little bit of pressure to give a couple of 50-50s Forest way this weekend. That was the purpose of that statement. And they have to go to Spurs as well. And historically, that's not been a happy place for them. This is a really hard point to make. Please don't misunderstand it. If City had played Spurs in December or January, they probably would have dropped points in that game.
Yeah.
That is how I feel about that. Because it's in the last week and they may well go there knowing they have to win, it makes it much less likely. So I think, in a way, the scheduling of that game, which is no one's fault, it's just one of those things, probably worked against Arsenal. But the pressure that City are under is real. There's no question Arsenal will take it to the wire.
Here's the darkness for Arsenal fans. Miguel Delaney worked this one out. Pep Guardiola's side have only dropped 2 points when the title's been up for grabs after the 32nd game. That's 1 draw in 16. And he wrote, the only reason it's not 18 is because they won the league by 37 points last year. So that is the reality. They may have picked up points, dropped points against these teams in years past in games, but come crunch time, that's ultimately what we're looking at. Are they just a mortal lock this late in the season? We will find out tomorrow at Brighton. Tomorrow afternoon, so many people in my Twitter feed tweeting at me that now it's Brighton's turn. God bless you. The eternal optimism of Arsenal fans. Never, ever lose it. It's what makes you great. One very great chat question I've got to throw at you from Nico Politis. Rory, really important question. Is a burger a sandwich and is a burrito a wrap? Help. Ruling on burger a sandwich?
Yes. And a burrito is a wrap, yes, obviously.
Yes. I mean, God.
Let's not overcomplicate things.
I just found out the difference between a Land Rover and a Range Rover. And it's the same thing. A Range Rover is a Land Rover, just like a burger is a sandwich. It's just a type of
branding.
Land Rover. Yeah. It's just, yes, burgers. Just big burger lobby. Just great branding. But don't let them fool you. And on that note, what a night. What a joyous, bloody night. A night of affirmation. A night in which we realised that anything is bloody possible. I've been watching Friday Night Lights again, and I have not felt less happy watching sports since some of those games. And I do want to, and they're not even real. Or was this the not real one? And Friday Night Lights, who knows? It's my world, as Rory said. It's all about my tracksuit. But I want to finish by raising a glass to news crackling out of Spain that La Liga will, quote, play official matches abroad, according to its president, Javier Tebas. Who told Spanish newspaper Expansión this could happen from the 25-26 season and that the United States is the most likely destination. I've got to say, admittedly, a terrifying prospect for MLS because if these games happen here, it'll be the first of many leagues who will start barnstorming real games across our nation, games that mean something, which could really threaten to bury the domestic league alive. But I'll just say, woof, what a time to be an American football fan. Before we go, let's take a quick look at everything happening at MIB World Headquarters. All of it sponsored by Michelob Ultra, Superior Light Beer. Massive interview coming to the women's game with Sam Lewis tomorrow. Women's Super League goal machine. CONCACAF's own Buddy Shaw, just injured, but taped just before. It's life-affirming. God, CONCACAF Thunder. Also want to remind you of something happening. Our first annual State of the American Football Fan Survey. It's enormous. So many of you have responded. It's incredible. We know football fandom is deep and passionate, but we want to map out the contours, the things that make American football fandom different. It's your passion, your questions, your needs that inspire and direct us. We're going to pin a link in the chat right now. It will work, I promise you, if you click on it. And if you're listening to this as a podcast, go to the show notes of the podcast. It takes 15 minutes. I know polls are a pain up the arse. I hate them. But we're trying to map out what makes American football fandom distinct and special together. We've got a few Men in Blazers prizes to give out to lucky respondents. There's a huge thank you. I really, from the bottom of my heart, it means a lot to me. I'll be back on Friday with a brand new episode of WGFOP. Call in your last minute questions, 646 450 9472. That's 646 450 9472. Until next time, America, Raw, you're a beautiful human being and so bloody game to come on after what is an epic moment for my team, but a historic one for yours ultimately.
Yeah, but it's football, isn't it? Sometimes you lose, so it's fine.
I didn't know about this winning thing. I've only just found out.
This is the flip side. Yeah.
I didn't know there was a winning. This is Rog saying clear eyes, full hearts, Sean Deitch, courage.